Good afternoon. It's Monday, January 11th. I'm Laura Kornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. Residents of the South were instructed to return to their daily routine this morning after a terror alert in the area was lifted. Forces set up roadblocks and security was heightened in the southern city of Sderot and its surrounding areas after reports were received that a Palestinian woman planning to carry out an attack was heading to the region. A suspect was later apprehended and taken for questioning. Police determined the woman did not enter the area as initially thought. In a separate incident this afternoon, IDF troops shot and injured a Palestinian man who attempted to stab them near the Khirmash settlement in the northern West Bank. No soldiers were injured in that incident. Minister of Public Security Gilad Erdan said today the body of terrorist Nashat Milhem will not be released for burial in Arara until police receive guarantees from the family promising to prevent the funeral from turning into a propaganda event or a show of support and incitement of terror. Milhem was killed in a gun battle with police and Shin Bet forces on Friday, culminating a week-long nationwide manhunt. Family members had initially planned to hold a funeral yesterday, but police delayed handing over the body. Milhem's relatives said they intended to hold a low-key, subdued funeral. In Jerusalem, officials are saying that the blaze that broke out last night at the building where the offices of the B'Tselem Human Rights Group are located was likely caused by an electrical fault and not arson as initially suspected. The fire engulfed an entire floor of the complex, causing heavy damage to the offices. At first, there was speculation that the blaze was deliberately set, since the Human Rights Group has been under heightened criticism lately by right-wing groups and even legislators who claim the organization was serving foreign agendas. The building also houses offices belonging to the State Archives, Israel Antiquities Authority, and other institutions, but mainly B'Tselem was damaged. Shin Bet security forces have arrested a four-member Hamas cell that planned to carry out shooting attacks on Highway 35 near Hebron. The four, who were detained in November, were in the advanced planning stages of the attacks and had already secured safe houses and vehicles in preparation for their escape. The Hamas cell leader was identified as 38-year-old Mohammed Kawasme, who recruited cell members. He is the brother of Hussam Kawasme, who plotted the kidnapping and murders of the three Israeli teens, Naftali Frankel, Eyal Yifrach, and Gilad Sheir, in June of 2014, which ultimately led to the launching of Operation Protective Edge. The Likud Election Committee today decided the primaries will go ahead as scheduled on February 23rd. This despite the fact that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is the only candidate. Registration for the race to head the Likud party closed at noon yesterday, with Netanyahu remaining the sole contender. Many Likud officials called to cancel the primaries, which could cost the party an estimated 4 to 5 million shekels. Last year, Netanyahu brought the primaries forward in an effort to prevent former Education Minister Gideon Sa'ar from running for party leadership. Sa'ar pulled out of the race and subsequently announced he was retiring from politics. Police have recruited a state witness to testify in the ongoing investigation of senior officials of the Mateh Yehuda Regional Council arrested on suspicion of corruption charges and sexual harassment. Moshe Dadon, the head of the regional council, has been in police custody for 20 days, and police are seeking to extend his remand. They suspect Dadon sexually molested 5 women and are also investigating rape allegations as well as corruption charges. Police believe council officials took bribes to advance the interest of construction firms working in areas under the council's jurisdiction. The wave of arrest came after an undercover police investigation with the antitrust and tax authorities. Joining us now in the studio is Michael Parham of the Movement for Quality Government. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael. Let's begin with the Prime Minister's insistence on opening ballots during his party primaries. Even though he's the sole candidate to head the Likud, what could be behind this? Why is he so insistent?
Well, it's clear that he has an advantage as the sole candidate, and so he's going to win the election in a sort of a former communist bloc majority. So that's a clear
Why wouldn't he agree to it being canceled?
Why should he? I mean, he's enjoying unprecedented popularity within his party and an unprecedented position within the government, and he wants to ensure that position remains so for the foreseeable future. In May, not be the best outcome in terms of democratic processes, but sooner or later, a contestants will emerge, and despite his best efforts, their democracy will eventually ensure that he will be replaced. We just don't know when that will be.
Michael, there are reports that Netanyahu is planning to appoint MK Tzachi Negbi and Benny Begin to ministerial positions. The Kulanu and Shas parties already have come out against this plan, saying that it changed the coalition's balance and it's against the agreements they've already made. Are there grounds for those claims? And is there a legal ground to stand on?
Well, it's difficult for me to comment on the claim that it violates coalition agreements. I can't say. It's also, in terms of the movement for quality government, not extremely germane. What is important from our point of view is that Tzachi Negbi has been convicted of perjuring himself in front of an administrative tribunal. We opposed his reappointment to the government, and we will continue to oppose the reappointment of convicted felons to any cabinet position. We don't think it's good government.
On the same subject, the latest appointment of Aryeh Deri as Interior Minister, 22 years after he left the post, due to allegations of corruption.
Well, I mean, we filed a petition in the High Court of Justice to prevent this appointment. Today, the court denied our request for an interim order, which means that the appointment will go ahead. From what I understand, the judge's reasoning was that it is a reversible process, and he has called for a full panel to hear the case as soon as possible. We don't yet have a date for hearing, but we feel that even though it'll be a difficult petition to win, it's a matter, I think, of self-respect as citizens.
But what's your response to people who say he's paid his due, he served his time, give him another chance?
Well, the giving him another chance is the problem. I think that if you were a bank official or a company official that got his hand caught in the till and served time, and it was.
Well, that's basically what happened.
Neither the bank nor any private company, self-respecting private company, would reappoint a person to the same position. He's certainly eligible for many jobs, but we don't necessarily need a recycled politician in this job. I'm sure there are very many other qualified people to do it, and it's just unseemly. And we think it beyond the bounds of reasonableness for the government to appoint a convicted felon who was convicted of offenses conducted while he was the Interior Minister and of abusing his authority as Interior Minister to that position again. So it's not really a matter of paying his dues or anything personally about Mr. Deri, but it's just in terms of Israeli democracy and good government, it sets a very bad precedent.
Michael, it seems that every other day there's a new affair involving public officials, charges of corruption, sexual misconduct. Silvan Shalom, ינון Magal, the mayor of Ashkelon, now officials at the Mate Yehuda. What needs to be done to restore the public's faith in its elected leaders?
Well, what the authorities are doing, which is prosecuting offenses as they come to light. And I think the public atmosphere these days is much less forgiving of norms, of negative norms, which unfortunately were all too common in the public service. I think that people are less forgiving. I think people want these norms to be uprooted, and they want sexual harassment to stop. It's an abuse of authority. It's in itself a form of corruption and bad government. And so what we have to do is continue to keep our foot on the pedal, continue to support the authorities, continue to actively, as we do as volunteers in the movement for quality government, promote good government, principles of good government. You're not going to eliminate, entirely bad behavior, which is part and parcel of the human condition, but we can reduce it, and we can make sure that people who are victims have redress. And that's also, we're all the time looking at the big names, the politicians, but the victims themselves, I think, have to feel that society is behind them and will stand up with them. and not tolerate this type of behavior. So this is important for the politicians as well as for the victims and their families.
Michael Pardon from the Movement for Quality Government. Thanks so much for being our guest, as always.
Always a pleasure.
Controversy surrounding the appointment of Danny Dayan as Israel's next ambassador to Brazil continues. Over the weekend, some 40 retired diplomats in Brazil published a letter to the public calling on the government to oppose Dayan's appointment, citing the undiplomatic way in which the Israeli government acted and bypassed protocol. The letter also stated that Israel refrained from informing the government in Brazil of the decision to appoint Dayan and instead learned of the decision from media reports. 5 months ago, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced Dayan, the former chairman of the Council of Jewish Communities in Judea and Samaria, would be the next ambassador to Brazil. However, due to the public outcry in Brazil, Dayan still remains in Israel. The Defense Ministry is celebrating the near completion of the first F-35 fifth-generation fighter jet, slated to join the Air Force. Israel and American defense officials, along with Lockheed Martin representatives, attended a ceremony at Fort Worth, Texas yesterday, marking the advanced production stages of the fighter jet. Israel signed a contract in 2010 to purchase 33 F-35 stealth fighter jets at a cost of $110 million per aircraft. The first 2 jets are expected to be delivered to Israel this year, and the rest by the end of 2021.
Will greatly enhance the IF ability to defend the state of Israel from the serious threats that we focus.
Today marks the second anniversary of the death of the country's 11th Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon, a politician, army general, and military strategist. Sharon was at the height of his political career in 2006 after founding the Kadima Party, when he suffered a massive stroke that left him comatose for 8 years until his death at the age of 85. His life was marked with victories and controversies, both in his military and political careers. However, many viewed him as a true leader who got things done. Sharon, whose love for the state of Israel never wavered, was buried next to his wife Lily in a plot at his beloved Sycamore Ranch in the Negev. In a ceremony marking the end of the Christmas celebrations, Roman Catholic Christians gathered on the banks of the Jordan River yesterday to reenact the baptism of Jesus. The Pope's envoy to the Middle East, the custodian of the Holy Land, Father Pier Battista Pizzaballa, led the ceremony.
This feast usually comes after this Christmas celebration in Bethlehem. The following Sunday we have in the liturgical calendar the feast of the baptism of Jesus Christ. So that's why we are here now close to the Jordan River to celebrate.
Legendary British artist, singer, songwriter, and producer David Bowie has died at the age of 69. Bowie, who excelled in glam rock, soul, hard rock, pop, funk, and electronica during his long and illustrious career, just released his 25th album, Black Star, on the occasion of his January 8th birthday. Bowie shot to fame in 1969's Space Odyssey, but the 1972 portrayal of a doomed bisexual alien rock star, Ziggy Stardust, propelled him to global stardom. He performed in Israel in 1996. A statement issued by the family said the star died peacefully today, surrounded by his family, after a courageous 18-month battle with cancer.
I'm so high, it makes my brain whirl. Drop my cell phone down below.
Turning to Beverly Hills, where the Hungarian Holocaust movie Son of Saul snagged the prestigious Golden Globe Award for Best Foreign Language Film. The movie tells the tale of a Jewish Sonderkommando death camp worker who finds his son's corpse and decides to bury him. The main character, Saul, played by Jewish actor Giza Rohrig, vows to save his child's body from the flames and find a rabbi to say Kaddish at a proper burial. Accepting the award, director Laszlo Nemes said the Holocaust must never be forgotten.
The Holocaust showed us the monster that really exists within human beings. It's a possibility. It's a constant possibility. It can, we can turn into that once more. And we've seen that, you know, genocide are still going on, and they haven't stopped. So I think we have to look into the human soul, and cinema can do that, I think, in a very, very visceral way. So I think that's why I wanted to make this film.
And in sports news, we can say it's a done deal. Gal Mecca will be putting on the blue and yellow Maccabi uniform and heading out to the basketball court against Ashdod next Sunday. The former NBA player just signed a 3.5-year contract with Maccabi Tel Aviv for an estimated $500,000 a season. The 27-year-old guard will be replacing Jordan Farmer, who asked to return to the U.S. Calling it a symbolic closure, Meckel told reporters that he was looking for stability and a warm home, two qualities that Maccabi is offering him. In financial news, shares were up on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange while the shekel was mixed in foreign currency trading. Here are the late afternoon numbers. And the forecast is calling for a slight rise in temperatures tomorrow. Here are the highs and lows for the next 24 hours at home and abroad. And that brings us to the end of this broadcast of IBA News. I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, have a good evening, and shalom from Jerusalem.